That's why I started crying. But I go back whenever I'm up that part of the world, and I've played the Colgan Hall a few times, and for a long time as well. My tour manager was also a Cairn man, and I've had good chats recently with Katrina, the director of the Abbey, who's also a Cairn lady. So I have very fond memories of the place.
When I say you don't do Irish tours by halves, you really you go all out. And I think the last time I was chatting to you, maybe you were doing a tour of the islands. And
Oh
so
yeah.
you cover all the nooks and crannies. It's a full on proper extensive tour of Ireland. It's not just picking Galway and Cork and Dublin.
No, but see, I mean, I find it very hard to know what to do on a day when I'm not working. So I prefer to be on the road, and I've gotten great lifeblood and energy. I've toured the county of Donegal a few times.
Yes.
I was up there recently in one of the Cushlucka, in Gweedore, isn't it? And then I've done the islands, and I've done. I was in Bundoran recently. I've done Donegal town. I've done Glenties. So there's always an extra element of. I wouldn't say it's buck wild energy, but there's a kind of there's a lift in the room that you wouldn't get in Sligo or Tyrone. And Derry has a bit of a they'd be slightly more defiant in Derry, but there's good mischief in the room in Donegal. And it's a place once you go through the gap there, the far side of Donegal town, the Barnett's Gap.
It's all change.
I love it, and I'm not one I would have no interest in say traipsing up now to a 5,000 seater venue, somewhere in Tirconnell or in Inishowen and doing one show, and then doing nothing for a fortnight. I prefer to be working every night and playing to 200 or 300 people at a time. It's a way of life more than balancing books or anything like that. And I love it.
It's a strange sort of an existence. It's a kind of a manic sort of an existence, because I would imagine that most performers would prefer the latter. The former, in that you play the big venue. You're in a county. You pick out the biggest venue if you can fill the place, and that's it. That's that box ticked, and that's great, and it's on to the next county.
But you're what I mean, and then what are you supposed to do for the other 6 days of the week?
You spend time with the kids.
Do you know what I mean? Play golf, is it? And swing into Daniel for a cup of tea, and
maybe.
I'll question my mind with that. It's what I do is I'm a mouth worker. Do you know what I mean? And I develop my craft and my stories by being on stage as often as possible. So to me, it doesn't really matter what I love is a full room, but the size of the room is not important.
Okay. Yeah.
So you could be playing to 25 people in a 23-seater, and that would suit me down as much as 1,000 people in Vicar Street. So it's
a full room is a full room.
A full room is a full room, and I thrive on it. I was never any good at school. You know what I mean? I knew from an early age that I never wanted a job. I put down apostle on my CAO form. I'm not designed for the industrial workplace or anything like that. I'm an old talker. That's all I am. I'm just a talker, and I need people to talk to. So that's why I'm on the road as much as I am.
Speaking of unconventional things, the part that you played in Derry Girls, has that opened you up to a new audience? Is there a new, especially in Derry, maybe? Will you find now that there'll be bigger crowds than normal in Derry, and elsewhere in the country? Because obviously Derry Girls doesn't end at the county line. And do you find that when you're playing in other places, that playing the part of Jerry, there's different things that people treat you differently or react differently?
So when I was, say, earlier on this year now, when I hit the road, people were being hit by, just in terms of my terrible face, people were seeing me on Derry Girls, and they were seeing me on the chat show, and they were listening to me on the podcast that I do with Hector and Larita. So that definitely, sold a few more tickets and all that. But the strange one was, I was doing a festival recently in Montreal, and a man who works as a promoter in out in New York and across America says to me, "Would you like to come over and do an American tour?" And I was kind of humming and hawing about it, and I didn't know. I kind of find it difficult to be that far away from home. I've no problem sleeping in a hotel in Letterkenny, but I would have difficulty being at peace sleeping in a hotel in New York, a couple of thousand miles away from the family. And he said to me, your big calling card in New York is Derry Girls. And that caught me on the hop. That because Derry Girls is now on Netflix and is successful in places like Australia and America and Canada, that kind of took me by surprise. So and there was a bit of a lift in England. I did a tour of England there in March or April, and there was more tickets sold than ever before, and that was probably on account of Derry Girls. But the big surprise was that Americans were watching it and would come and see me on account of it. So that's that was unusual, I thought. You'd wonder at a fella or a family sitting down in Wisconsin or Austin, Texas, and trying to get their ear around Michelle and Aird and having a go at one another on the streets of Derry. That's unusual. Like, you'd wonder, did they run subtitles underneath it? Like, that's hard enough for people from Leitrim to understand. Never mind people from Las Vegas.
Well, they have done, and it just shows how good the show is, how good the writing is, and how good the acting is.
How well written it was. Yeah.
Well, that takes some credit as well. A big part of it's the acting as well. What if you had to pick one of them, Tommy? Acting, the presenting, live shows, or doing podcasts. You could only, for whatever reason, you could only do the one.
It'd be the live shows.
Would it? Definitely. Okay.
Because there's a sense of it, like, say in the Errigal Hotel now, which I haven't played for a few years. So I'll go on stage there now. I have a brilliant support act, a fellow by the name of John Colleary, who people might remember from The Savage Eye many years ago, and he's one of the finest stand-ups in the country. So I feel very privileged to have him going on before me. But I'll go on stage maybe around 9:15 or something like that, 9 o'clock. So you have, I can't remember how many fit into the room, it could be 700 or 800. And there'll be drink on board. It's a room that they don't feel intimidated by. Everybody is they've been at 21st in that room, they've been at wedding receptions, they've been at funeral receptions. It's a room that they know and they kind of own. So the energy of that and the confidence of an audience in their own town is something to behold. So they'll be, and they'll have paid good money. Like, the tickets are 35 quid each. So you're not talking about something that's, you're not talking about a cheap night out for people. So people have kind of laid away a significant amount of their monthly wage. There could be 2 or 3 of them from a family going. There could be a babysitter. There could be taxis, and there'll be drink, and maybe there'll be dinner beforehand. So they're right to expect a good show, and they'll they'll talk back to you, and it's just the adrenaline of that I thrive on, the expectation of it. It's a very, very heightened energy, and I do my best, myself and John, to deliver a really, really great night out for people. So when people are leaving the room about 10:30, that physiologically they're kind of half changed because they've had 2 hours of laughing and all that positive, all that serotonin, all them bubbles in your blood flowing around your body. So I'd be off stage by then, but I'd hear the buzz of the crowd as they're walking out to the hotel bar or a bar in town or into the car park. So the thrill of that is it's like being a bare knuckle boxer, or it's just or a bike rider or something. It's just a thrilling way of life. It keeps me active. It's no wonder that Bob Dylan is still touring at the age of 81. Do you know what I mean? It's a wonderful, wonderful way of life.
You thrive off that reaction, that audience reaction. There'll be a lot of comedians would just rather just, somebody says something, just straight away try to put them down. You and move on and go back to the script or something.
Sure, yeah.
You thrive off it. You relish it.
Well, yeah. I kind of every heckle is an invitation, and now you don't always get it right. I mean, and that's the jeopardy. You don't always think of something funny to say, and every heckle is almost a challenge to see, are you really funny? But that's, stand-up is very, very democratic. You'd have people, and we all do it, and we're sitting at home and we're watching television, maybe it's the news or something, and some old politician is coming on and he's trying to bamboozle us with percentages and figures and amounts of money and telling us that everything is all right. And deep in our bones, we know the man or the woman is not being totally truthful. So we shout at the television. Yeah. But the man in the box doesn't answer back. The man in the box just keeps going. The man in the box doesn't even hear you. But you shout at a stand-up comedian and he does hear you. And there are very few. You go to an opera, people tend not to shout at the singer. You go to music and your voice gets drowned out by guitars and drums. But you go to stand-up and it's kind of... Now, I'm not inviting it's not like a town hall meeting or anything like that. It's not a free-for-all.
Not a challenge.
But part of the romance of stand-up is its democracy. So you're entitled to shout up. Now, if you shout up 10 or 12 times and you're hammered drunk and you're making no sense, then you'd be taken out the back and you'd be dealt with severely. But other than that, it's all kind of good-natured and good crack.
The title of the tour is Tomfoolery. It's the usual Tommy Tiernan show, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But again, you the whole thing about is trying to stay kind of that the show never gets too predictable. That you're making people laugh in ways, even though they'd be very familiar with your face and the sound of your voice, that you're making them laugh in ways that they're comfortable with, but they're kind of half surprised by. So that's the challenge. If you're too predictable, I think the game is up. Really, you're almost you turn into your own tribute act. You're on your own nostalgia tour.
I don't think anybody would accuse you of being predictable.
I hope not. I hope not. We'll plough on, and like I said, it's a way of life, and I'm the better for it, really.
Well, I think we'll all be the better for going along and having a good laugh and a bit of a distraction from a lot of the stuff that's going on in the world at the minute.
For sure.
So, 2 dates, tomorrow night and Friday night at the Millennium Forum, and then
I think I'm in the Millennium Forum on Saturday as well. Now, I have a feeling.
Sorry, Friday. I got my dates wrong. It's Friday night and Saturday night during the Millennium Forum.
No, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Derry.
All
but
right.
I have a feeling they're all gone.
All right.
I hope I'm not speaking out of turn now, but I have a feeling them shows if they're not sold out, they're on the very edge of it.
So check out the box office. Call the box office.
Check out the box office, but it's the Errigal that there are still some tickets available for the Mount Errigal Hotel.
Fair enough. That date is Saturday, the 1st of October. All right, Tommy. Look forward to it, and thanks for joining us. Good luck to you.
A pleasure talking to you. God bless and good luck.
Tourism businesses have a brand new mark of employer excellence, driven by the employee's voice. The Employer Excellence Programme recognises employers who consistently create better workplaces for their employees, attract and retain top talent, shine the